If you are over 60 and your feet feel cold at night, your ankles puff up by evening, or your calves feel heavy after sitting, the advice you hear most often is probably this: walk more. And let me say right at the beginning, walking is good. Please do not stop walking. I would never tell you to do that. I am Dr. Michael, and over the years I have seen many older adults who were trying very hard to do the right thing. They took their walks, they elevated their legs, they drank more water, some wore compression socks every day, and still, by late afternoon, their shoes felt tighter. Their socks left deep marks. Their feet felt icy under the blankets. Some told me their calves burned. Others said their legs felt weak and unreliable when they stood up too quickly. They were not lazy. They were not careless. They were following the standard advice. The problem was that no one had clearly explained what actually moves the blood back up out of the legs. And that matters more than people think. Poor circulation in the legs is not just one of those little annoyances that comes with getting older. When blood sits too long in the lower legs, tissues get less oxygen, healing slows down, swelling builds, skin becomes more fragile, and people start moving less because their legs feel tired, tight, or unsteady. That is how small circulation issues quietly turn into much bigger independence issues. A lot of people think the danger only begins when pain becomes severe. It often starts much earlier than that, with heaviness, swelling, restless legs, cold feet, and that vague feeling that your lower body is just not as dependable as it used to be. And before you click away because you think this is going to be another lecture telling you to take more steps, give me a minute, because the reason your feet are still cold at night may have much less to do with how far you walk today and much more to do with one muscle group that acts like a pump. If that pump is weak, underused, or switched off for most of the day, blood tends to settle downward. If you wake that pump up and train it properly, circulation often improves more than people expect. Not overnight, not magically, and not by turning an 80-year-old body into a 30-year-old one, but enough to matter, enough to feel, enough to move with more confidence. The muscle I am talking about is your calf. You may have heard it called the second heart. That is not just a cute phrase. It is a useful way to understand what is happening inside your legs. Every time the calf contracts firmly, it squeezes the deep veins that run through the lower leg, or temporary food poisoning. What we are discussing is the slow calf muscles lose strength if they are not challenged. Veins can become less efficient, balance declines, stride length shortens, and what looks like movement from the outside does not always create a strong enough squeeze on the inside. That is why some people walk every single day and still deal with swelling. Walking is good for overall health, but many older adults walk slowly, cautiously, and with a shorter stride. That is understandable. But it can mean the calves are not getting the kind of full, deliberate contraction needed to really pump blood upward. In other words, the body is moving, but the pump is not working hard enough. Once that happens, a quiet cycle can begin. Blood settles, swelling increases, legs feel tired, people move less, the calf pump gets weaker, and then circulation gets worse again. That cycle can sneak up on people over months and years. Now here is the good news. You can train this. And you do not need a gym membership, fancy machine, or complicated routine to do it. What you need are a few very specific movements done with control. I am going to walk you through 5 of them, counting down from number 5 to number 1. Each one helps circulation in a different way. Each one prepares you for the next, and I am saving the single most powerful exercise for the end, the one I would focus on first if someone asked me for just one movement to help leg circulation after 60. Before we start the countdown, let me tell you about someone I will call Margaret. That is not her real name. She is a blend of several patients I have cared for over the years. Margaret was 72, sharp, independent, and deeply frustrated. She was still doing many things for herself. She drove, she cooked, she babysat her grandson twice a week. But by late afternoon, her ankles looked puffy, Her feet felt cold even in warm weather, and when she got up from her chair, she sometimes paused for a second because she did not fully trust her legs. What upset her most was this: she had been walking faithfully for years, and she felt like her effort should have counted for more. Keep Margaret in mind, because what helped her is the same thing I want you to understand today. Let us start with number 5, ankle pumps. This is one of the most overlooked circulation movements because it looks too simple to matter. People assume that if something can be done sitting down, it cannot possibly be powerful. That is a mistake. Ankle pumps are often one of the very first movements used when people need to keep blood moving without standing or walking very much. The reason is straightforward. When you pull your toes up and then point them down, the muscles around your lower leg contract and relax in a repeated rhythm. That repeated squeeze helps wake up blood flow in the lower leg and reduce pooling around the ankles. To do it, sit in a sturdy chair with both feet flat on the floor. Lift your toes up toward your shins while keeping your heels down, then reverse it by pressing your toes downward and lifting your heels. Move slowly. Do not rush through it. Think of it as pressing and releasing a pump, not flapping your feet around. Start with 20 repetitions. If that feels easy, do 30. You can do it first thing in the morning, while watching television, while waiting for the microwave, or any time you know you will be sitting a while. The beauty of ankle pumps is that they turn dead sitting time into circulation time. They are not the strongest move on this list, but they are a very smart way to begin. Now here is their limitation. Ankle pumps wake the system up, but they do not challenge the larger muscles of the upper leg very much, and they do not do as much for balance. That is why they are number 5, not number 1. They are a door opener. They get blood moving. They reduce stiffness. They help you transition from stillness into activity. But if you want stronger circulation support, you have to involve more of the leg. That brings us to number 4, the seated leg extension. This one works higher up the chain. Sit tall in a chair. Keep your back supported and your feet flat. Slowly straighten one leg in front of you until the knee is as straight as is comfortable. Hold it there briefly, then lower it with control. Then switch sides. Do 10 to 15 repetitions per leg. What I like about this movement is that it asks the front of the thigh to wake up. Those muscles matter because they help you stand, step, climb, and catch yourself. And when larger muscles contract, they help move blood through bigger channels in the leg. Many people do this one too fast. They kick the leg out and let it drop. That turns it into a swing instead of an exercise. Slow is better. The lifting is helpful, but the controlled lowering is just as important. You want the muscle to work, not coast. If it becomes easy, you can add a very light ankle weight later. Not because the goal is bodybuilding. It is because muscle responds to being asked to do a little more. Stronger leg muscles usually mean better support for movement, better support for balance, and better support for circulation over time. But even strong thighs are not enough if the lower leg pump is still weak. Which brings us to number 3, the supported calf raise. This is where many people start to notice a difference. Stand behind a sturdy chair or at a kitchen counter. Place your hands lightly on it for balance. With your feet about hip-width apart, slowly rise onto the balls of your feet. Lift your heels as high as feels comfortable. Pause briefly at the top, then lower yourself back down slowly. That is 1 repetition. Start with 10, build toward 15, then 20 over time. This movement matters because it asks the calf to do what it was designed to do, contract strongly enough to push. And unlike ordinary walking, it does not hide behind momentum. You cannot glide through it. The calves have to work. The pause at the top matters. The slow lowering matters. The control matters. This is where the circulation piece and the balance piece begin to overlap. Every time you rise up, your ankles, calves, and feet work together. You are not just moving blood. You are also training the exact system that helps keep you steady when the ground feels a little uneven or when you turn too quickly in the kitchen. And let me pause here for one small favor. If this is helping you, make sure you subscribe, tap the like button, and leave a comment telling me which one of these 5 movements you think you are most likely to start with. I read those comments, and they genuinely help me decide what to cover next. All right, back to the list. Number 2 is the single leg standing hold. Now, when people hear this one, they often think that is balance, not circulation. But balance and circulation are not nearly as separate as they seem. The moment you stand on one leg, the calf, ankle, foot, hip, and core all have to stay engaged continuously. Not for a split second, but for a sustained stretch of time. That sustained contraction can help keep the muscle pump switched on longer than ordinary walking does. To do it, stand next to a counter, a sturdy chair, or a wall. Rest one hand near that support. Shift your weight onto one leg and lift the other foot just an inch or two off the floor. You do not need to lift it high. Stand tall, keep your eyes forward, and breathe normally. Hold for 10 to 20 seconds at first, then switch sides. Over time, work toward 30 seconds. If you need fingertip support the whole time, that is perfectly fine. This is not a test of pride, it is a training tool. Why do I like this movement so much? Because it goes after something that matters enormously after 60. Trust in your own body. Once people begin to feel unsteady, they move differently. They shorten steps, they avoid certain tasks, they start sitting more. That reduced movement does not just affect balance, it often worsens circulation too. So anything that helps you feel steadier can indirectly help your circulation by making you more willing to move. What we are discussing is the slow. At the same time, the hold itself creates a steady contraction in the lower leg, which helps keep blood from simply settling in the foot and ankle. But as useful as balance work is, it is still not the strongest direct circulation exercise on this list. For that, we come to number 1. This is the one most seniors ignore, not because it is complicated, but because it seems almost too plain to be powerful. Number 1 is the standing calf pump hold. This looks similar to the calf raise from number 3, but one small difference changes everything. The hold at the top is longer, more intentional, and more demanding. Instead of simply rising and lowering, you rise up onto the balls of your feet and stay there for several seconds while the calf remains fully engaged. That sustained squeeze is what makes the exercise so effective. It gives the calf pump time to do real work. It helps push blood upward instead of letting it hover and settle down around the ankles. Here is how to do it. Stand behind a chair or at a counter with your hands resting lightly for balance. Place your feet about hip-width apart. Slowly rise up onto the balls of your feet as high as is comfortable. Once you are at the top, hold that position for 3 to 5 seconds. Breathe normally. Keep your eyes forward. Then lower yourself down slowly over about 3 seconds. That is 1 repetition. Start with 8 to 10 repetitions. If that goes well, build toward 15. Later, maybe 20. But do not chase numbers at the expense of form. The whole point is the quality of the squeeze, not racing through a set. Why is this the number 1 exercise? Because it combines the strongest calf contraction on this list with sustained time under tension. And that combination is exactly what many older legs are missing. Ankle pumps are helpful, leg extensions are helpful, basic calf raises are helpful, single leg holds are helpful. But the standing calf pump hold brings the circulation story into sharp focus. It directly challenges the muscle pump that helps move blood up against gravity. It strengthens the calves, it encourages control, it supports stability, and for many people, it is one of the first exercises that makes the lower legs feel truly awake again. This is the point where I want to bring Margaret back into the story. When she first came in, she thought her problem was simply that she needed to walk more. But the more we talked, the more obvious it became that she was already doing what most people would have told her to do. What she lacked was not effort. What she lacked was targeted muscle pumping. So I had her keep walking, but stop treating walking as the entire answer. I asked her to build a short routine around the 5 movements I am giving you here. Ankle pumps in the morning before breakfast. What we are discussing is the slow 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 Her legs did not transform overnight. She did not suddenly wake up with the circulation of a teenager. That is not how the body works, and I would never promise you something silly like that. But within a few weeks, she noticed that her ankles were not swelling quite as much by evening. Her feet felt less cold under the blankets. She felt more solid when she stood up after sitting. And the biggest thing of all, she stopped feeling quite so anxious about whether her legs were going to cooperate with her. That kind of improvement may sound modest to someone young and healthy. To an older adult who is quietly afraid of decline, it is not modest at all. It is meaningful. Now, there is something else I need to say, because this is where people sometimes make a mistake. They hear about a good exercise and assume more must be better. That is not always true. Better is better. Controlled is better. Consistent is better. If you do these movements with sloppy form, or you rush because you want to check them off, you lose much of the benefit. The calf pump responds to deliberate contractions. Think squeeze, hold, lower. Squeeze, hold, lower. Give the muscle a clear job. Let it do the work. You may also be wondering how often to do this routine. A good place to start is once a day, especially if your legs tend to swell or feel heavy by evening. The whole sequence does not have to take long. A short routine done regularly will usually help more than a long routine done once every 10 days. If you are very deconditioned, begin with just the first 2 or 3 movements and build from there. If your balance is shaky, keep your hands close to support. There is no prize for doing this the hard way. Safe and steady wins. And there is one more reason the number one exercise matters so much after 60. It supports independence in a very practical sense. Better calf strength and better lower leg control do not only help circulation, they help with rising, stepping, turning, recovering, and feeling planted on your feet. That matters in the bathroom. It matters in the kitchen. It matters getting in and out of the car. It matters when you stand up too quickly and your body has to organize itself fast. Sometimes the most useful exercise is not the flashiest one. It is the one that helps life go more smoothly every single day. Before I finish, I owe you an important caution. If one leg suddenly becomes much more swollen than the other, or you develop sudden severe pain, or the leg turns pale, cold, numb, or unusually weak, or you have a wound on the foot or lower leg that is not healing, that is not the moment to sit at home and experiment with exercises. Those are situations that deserve medical attention. If one leg suddenly becomes much more swollen than the other, or you develop sudden severe pain, or the leg turns pale, cold, numb, or unusually weak, or you have a wound on the foot or lower leg that is not healing, that is not the moment to sit at home and experiment with exercises. Those are situations that deserve medical attention. The routine I am talking about today is for gradual, everyday circulation support and lower leg muscle pumping, not for emergencies and not as a substitute for proper medical care. So let us recap this clearly. Number 5, ankle pumps to wake up circulation when you are sitting. Number 4, seated leg extensions to involve the bigger muscles higher up the leg. Number 3, supported calf raises to train a stronger push through the calves. Number 2, single leg standing holds to build sustained lower leg activation and better balance. And number 1, the standing calf pump hold, the most powerful of them all, because it keeps the calf fully engaged long enough to really help move blood upward. If you only remember one thing from this video, remember this. Walking is wonderful, but walking alone may leave a gap. The exercise that often fills that gap is the one many seniors skip because it looks too simple to matter. The standing calf pump hold is simple, but simple does not mean weak. Done properly, it trains the very pump your lower legs depend on. Your body may be older, but it is not helpless. Your circulation is not something you have no influence over. You may not control every change that comes with age, but there are still levers you can pull. This is one of them. A few focused minutes a day can do more than another hour of guessing, and if your legs have carried you this far, they deserve that kind of attention. I am Dr. Michael, and if this helped you, subscribe so you do not miss the next video. Give it a like, and in the comments tell me which movement you are starting with first. Take good care of those legs. With a little daily work,